What's going on, everybody? My name is Ben, and welcome back to the bench for a brand new episode here on our 1/48 scale J7W Shinden. Today we are moving on with the build, and I'm hoping to go ahead and get the engine installed and work on the rear of the aircraft. So far so good though. The parts have been fitting decently. We do have to do a little bit of extra cleanup here and there. There are a couple of seam lines that need extra attention, but so far I think this is a really great little model. Now, you remember from last episode, we do have the engine that came out of the kit mostly completed, but I want to put that aside because I want to display that separately. And instead, I scratch built an engine out of a couple of leftover parts out of the spares box. We're going to go ahead and mount that in today and get this exterior cladding all nicely glued together. We do have to go ahead and come back and paint the engine though, and paint all the interior struts and the supports, but I think that should be pretty simple to do. We also have to go ahead and then put on the exterior cladding, and we have our two parts right here. Those just drop right in on either side of the engine, and then we have a top section and then the rear engine mount, and then of course the propeller. Up on the front nose here, we have not glued in all the gun and the gun troughs. We're leaving those off for right now in case we want to go ahead and put some extra weight in there, but as you can see, shouldn't be too hard to drop some BBs in there just to give it a little extra weight to kind of kick it forward. I don't think we're going to have to worry about it though, because the landing gears are fairly compact right in the center of the aircraft, so we should be pretty decent on weight. So let's go ahead and jump into our first time lapse. We have a lot of work to do. We need to go ahead and put on that rear engine, do some painting to get all of the seam lines ready to rock and roll, build up a couple of extra little parts and pieces for the engine support. So let's jump in there, guys. Let's get this party started. Let's see what we can do on today's episode. Alright guys, so we are back, and as you can see, we've got the rear exterior cladding all glued into place. We also have the engine in there painted and then dry brushed with some silver and a little bit of panel line accent to kind of pop some of the detail. Honestly, just like I thought, you can see hardly anything through those lower landing gear bays, so I'm not too concerned about it. It's perfect detail for what we've got going on. Now on the exterior portion of the aircraft, we're taking our time and we're going ahead and coming back and filling up some of these seam lines. I've come in there and made a preliminary pass with some super glue, and now we're coming back in, we're filling up a little bit more, dropping in some super glue with my custom made stretch sprue applicator. Drop a little bit of accelerator there onto the seam, then we'll come on back, we can rinse and repeat. I like using super glue because it doesn't shrink and it's pretty tough. So as long as you can get in there, you can sand it down, you can use your jeweler files, you can use some sandpaper. It does eat up your jeweler files pretty quickly though, I will say. But other than that though, I think it's a really good alternative to just regular putty. You have to be careful though, because sometimes you will glue yourself to your model. Try to avoid that, but otherwise it's a great filler for larger gaps like what we have here. Moving on to the front portion of the nose here, I did mention I wanted to add a little bit of weight just to make sure we're not going to have a tail setter. And I'm going to add in some of our copper BBs, some weight before the canards and after the canards. Like I mentioned though, I don't think we're going to need it because the landing gears seem to be more concentrated in the center of the aircraft, but still better to be safe than sorry. So we're going to add in a couple of BBs, drop a little bit of super glue on it, drop of accelerator, and we are good to go. Now, of course, I do have to come back in though and sand down some of these panels and get the front nose glued together, but this is going to go ahead and get us started in that general direction. So with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and jump back into a time lapse. I still have quite a bit of work to do with some seam cleanup, and I do want to go ahead and install the flaps. I want to work on the wheelbase a little bit, do a little bit of painting, plus install those rear tails. Once that is done, I also have to come back in, mask off the canopy, get those installed. Go ahead and get the nose glued in and fixed up, sanded, and smoothed out. So let's go ahead and get back in there. Let's grab our jeweler files. We're going to take down some of these seams. We're going to fair in some of the panel lines. We're going to see what we can do and get this thing looking a little bit cleaner and ready for priming. All right, let's keep it rolling, guys. We're almost done for today. Alright guys, so we're back and here we go. The Shinden is looking like a Shinden. I'm very happy with how it's come together so far. We have all of our panels there over the engine. We've got our makeshift engine in there. We've done some sanding, some cleanup. We've got our canopy all nicely masked. I did come in and do a little bit of extra brush painting. I painted some of our chainmail there in the wheelbase and we glued in our front nose. I did leave the front cap off so I can go ahead and add in a bit more weight if I need to. But like I said, with those landing gears on, we'll probably be okay. Let's go ahead and zoom in real quick and you can check out how the panels went together. We'll talk a bit about it. So as you can see here, everything here on the aircraft has come together decently, but it's taken quite a bit of work to get to this point. You do have to be very careful with this particular model. None of these parts really fit together perfectly, not like a Tamiya kit or anything like that. We had a seam up here at the front where the wings attached to the fuselage that had to be faired in. We had to put our flaps in, which didn't really fit as nicely as I would have liked, but we did get a chance to do a little bit of painting and our makeshift engine is glued up inside. For the color there on our wheelbase, we used this game color chainmail. I like the look of this as a base color. We're going to come back in and probably dry brush some silver over that to give it a little bit of extra interest. But other than that, I think we're moving right along. Now we did have a very large gap up here at the top of the fuselage, and we had to come in and do a couple of different treatments there with some super glue. We do have it nicely sanded down, and this stuff works great for going ahead and backfilling those larger gaps. We won't know 100% until we go ahead and prime everything, but I think we're on the right track. All of it is nicely smoothed out, everything is sanded. The engine is inside though, that dropped right into place. I did one quick support bar, we were good to go, so I'm really happy you can see some detail if you look up inside. I also went ahead and installed our tails, and those slotted right into the wings. No problem whatsoever. A little bit of extra thin. They were locked into place. Up on the front nose, I did do a lot of work there for the ammo bay doors as well as the front cannon ports. All of that is nicely sanded down. I used some Mr. Surfacer to minimize the gaps, not to erase the gaps, because there are actual panel lines. You can look down the front, you can see the guns, and you see the inside right there. I did add some extra copper BBs just to give it a bit of extra weight. We also glued in our side intakes. All that is nicely faired into place. Beautiful detail on these, mind you, so I'm pretty happy with how this has turned out so far. I also got a chance to go ahead and assemble the propeller, and this is a very simple subassembly, but it is massive. Check out how big this thing is. It's about the size of my palm almost. So very, very impressive. I do have to come in though, do some painting, obviously priming. The front section is going to get silver. Everything else is going to be that kind of reddish brown color. And the nice thing is it is keyed. So it'll fit right onto that drive shaft, slots right into place. And then we'll go ahead and glue that cap right on the top of that. And wow, look at that thing. That thing is so cool looking. It's a very unique design, but we'll get to it eventually. I don't want to glue it on just yet because I want to do some detail painting first, but as you can see, it does spin, and that is really, really cool. You might remember I did mention that I was worried about pushing that drive shaft all the way inside the aircraft, and I actually came up with a very clever little fix for that. I went into my spares box and pulled out some return rollers from an old Panzer III. I went ahead and cut one of them out. I drilled out the inside, making it a little bit of a cup, sanded it down, glued it right to the back of that propeller area. It works like a charm. So yeah, save your parts, guys. Trust me, you never know when you might be able to use them. But with that being said, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for today. Next episode, we're going to come on back, and I'm thinking we're going to go ahead and maybe work on the landing gears, pre-shade, post-shade, and maybe some color on this. I don't know for sure. We have to see how the primer coat works out first. But after that is all finished up, I think we're in good position to maybe throw some paint on this, and we'll see how it looks. So until our next episode, guys, thank you so much for coming along today. You guys know the drill. Go out there, get yourself some bench time, have some fun, build something cool. Make sure to come on back here for episode 5 for more modeling adventures with our 1/48 scale J7W Shinden. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you soon.